Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It's Thursday, which means we're almost to the end of the week. Very excited for that. Hope that you're in a good mood today. Drinking your Founding Flavors coffee, right? Right? Yeah, well, everybody who's here in studio today is drinking from the AP for Liberty shop. What about you? Joining us now live and in studio is everybody's favorite guest, another Peterson, Camellia, joining us in studio. Hey, CJ.
Hey, good morning.
Nice to see you.
Nice to be here finally again.
Glad to have you here. Yeah, it has been a while. What do we owe the pleasure?
There's more meetings.
Yes.
Not as many in the Capitol right now because legislature's not in session.
Yeah, well, just so everybody knows, we have you uninterrupted this morning without any other guests, just you and me. So it'll be AP and CJ. So it's all Petersons today, but Family Friday's tomorrow. We're not related, for God's sakes. No. She's an SON and I'm an SEN, and neither the twain shall meet. If you're just tuning into the show, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel so that you can get updates whenever we go live, which is every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time, the Wake Up America show. Brought to you by viewers and listeners just like you, as well as our awesome advertisers like Lear Capital and our friends over at Shell Shock CBD. More on that later. At the top of the show this morning, we're going to get right into it. It's going to be a little juicy. PG-13 to, well, it might be a little rated R, would you say, Camellia?
It's possible.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little.
Yeah. I mean, we will be talking a little bit about the Trump laws, the Trump conspiracy charges and all that kind of stuff, although Newsmax is going to do that all day. I'm sure Steven Crowder will have a lot to say about it after us. I mean, what more can we add to it? So,
Right. It's like, I'm with you. I'm tired.
I'm so tired of it.
God.
Oh, God, please, no more. So why don't we talk about Rudy Giuliani's sexual harassment lawsuit? Because I can't wait to make Camellia read out loud what Rudy Giuliani said to Olivia Dunphy. Is that what her name is? Some
Think
Dunphy,
so.
yeah. So
Yeah.
she's kind of cute. She's got some.
She's pretty.
She's got some big old buddies. We're gonna talk about that. It's gonna be a fun show this morning. We'll start it off again. If you've got kids in the audience today, just an FYI, the subject matter of what Rudy Giuliani is accused of saying in leaked audio tapes from the lawsuit.
Oh, it's a little juicy.
A little juicy. Yes, things are a little juicy. Just FYI. We'll talk at 7:30 this morning. Speaking of juicy, Lizzo being sued by her backup dancers for fat shaming. What? No.
Right?
That's
so weird.
And it's not just fat shaming. Speaking of rated R, sexual harassment against her dancers, like forcing them to eat bananas that she had done things with. Did you see that?
Oh, I did not see that
I'm
part.
so glad that you
Oh
didn't
my-
read all the stories this morning, because now you get surprised on camera what it's gonna be.
Like,
Oh,
I saw the whole stripper thing or whatever it was that they were doing, and I did not see the banana part.
yeah, the banana. You can, everybody
What's wrong
knows.
with people?
I don't know. But it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be a little wild. It's gonna be a little PG-13. It's gonna be a little rated R this morning. Again, just wanted to give you a little warning, because I know some of you do like to listen to us in the car with your kids. So, Kermode Bear over on Rumble says, I think we need a dramatic reading of the Giuliani transcripts. You're going to get one. You are going to get one. So don't worry about that.
That's Austin's specialty.
No, Camellia today has to read the transcripts because it's way more fun if Camellia has to do it. This ish is bananas. Bananas. Thank you, Studio 314, for that. Very funny. Good afternoon from the UK, says John Knox. It's afternoon over there. Good morning to the Pork Chop Times, our friends over there, John Rail, as well as Matt Unruh and Andy Opperman, who says, that's disgusting. Where?
I agree.
Yes, glad to have you here. Glad to have you here, guys. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. We've got so much to talk about this morning. I don't think we're going to get through all of it. I've got some other stories. I've got a video of Christian teenagers who were arrested for protesting a drag queen event for kids. Did you watch this video?
I saw a little bit of that yesterday too.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know, that's kind of wild. I was trying to figure out, and I saw in the article what exactly they charged them with, but I
Mhm.
think they really had to stretch to do it.
Yeah, I think it's a violation of these kids' free
Sure.
speech. Yeah, and it's also very politically popular on the right for me to support these kids. So let's talk about it.
Okay.
It's
Priorities.
priorities, exactly. I think it'll bring in the views. So we'll talk about that, and then I've got another story this morning. Apparently, news came out that Jim Caviezel, the star of the Sound of Freedom movie, apparently had attacked Michael J. Fox over like a decade ago when Michael J. Fox revealed his Parkinson's diagnosis. And the headline, the way that I read it, made it sound like he was attacking him for revealing that he had Parkinson's disease.
Yeah,
Did
that's
you
I
get
thought
that?
that was weird too, as I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, that's really odd," and then you dug in and it's not
Of
really.
course. Right. Whenever you read a headline and you're like, that sounds ridiculous. It is
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like the reality is that Michael J. Fox was doing a campaign for stem cell research in favor of Claire McCaskill, but Jim Caviezel calls him a Judas. I had to explain to Stephanie what a Judas was last night because isn't it funny like how the Jews just have no concept, like
Right.
the New Testament looms so large in the minds of Christians
Sure,
that
yeah,
like without the terminology of the New Testament, like you really do miss out on so much of like what we're talking about. The language of the Bible
right.
is the language of the West,
Sure,
of the New Bible anyway, not the Torah, right?
right.
Anyways, so Judas, what is a Judas, Camellia?
Well, a Judas is someone who, betrays, and I'm not really sure why he was calling him a Judas. Like that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that was confusing, but we'll get into it and we'll like break into the nitty-gritty details of this because it just seemed like a hit piece to like slam Jim Caviezel, right? Because
Right.
the left is on full-blown attack mode against him. They don't like how well Sound of Freedom is doing in movie theaters, and like for their fourth, I think this is like their fourth or their fifth weekend coming up. They have been killing it at the box office, going international, and it's like, why is the left so upset about this movie? Have you seen it yet?
I have not seen it.
Sound of Freedom. It's good. I will say, it's not like the best film you've ever seen in your life, but it has enough excitement and enough intrigue and a few laughs and to kind of keep you interested from the entertainment value. It doesn't play like a public service announcement like a lot of films do these days, where it's like beating you over the head with it, right? It tells a good story and it has good acting, but the way that the left is attacking this movie, it's shady, you know.
Yeah, well, and I would say I've seen some things like there's some people you can never make them happy because even on the right, I've seen people say, "Oh, that's good. Let's get this message out." But
Right.
I wish they would have made it about, kids in America or, some other such thing. And
There's
it's like,
always some stupid excuse that they're coming up with to try and be
good
like why
story,
they're
yeah.
not so like why they're against this movie. But
Right.
it's here's what I think. I think they hate Jim Caviezel because he's a proud Christian.
Yeah, didn't he play a role in
He
Mel
was
Gibson's Passion of the
he was
Christ or
literally
something like that? Yeah.
Jesus
Oh, he was Jesus. Okay.
in the movie. Yes, I mean not literally Jesus, but like
Well,
he
right.
was he played him on screen. He literally was Jesus in the movie about Jesus, Passion of the Christ. So anyways, so we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the ethics of stem cell research for Parkinson's disease. So, and obviously Claire McCaskill is out of office, so that Michael J. Fox, phew, she's gone, she gone. Would you call her an upgrade?
Would I call her an upgrade?
No. Would you call it an upgrade?
Oh, yes.
Oh, thank God you didn't pause between that. You could have ruined your political career right there. All righty, we're gonna have a great show today, and of course, Camellia will be joining us, and we will have an excellent time today. All right, let's start off with the weirdness. Just an FYI, again, things are gonna be very PG-13 to R rated this morning. And so if you have kids who are listening in right now, we do not recommend that the Wake Up America show be played loudly in your rooms. We have given you fair warning. We do try and make this show PG to PG-13 usually. Today it might be PG-13 to R, but guess what? The government doesn't tell us what to do, but you do. So you can turn it on or off at your own will. Caveat emptor, buyer beware, and I hope that you enjoy. All right. Rudy Giuliani has denied his supposed sexual proclivities in response to a sex abuse lawsuit earlier this year. New transcripts of recordings showed him making lewd remarks to his accuser. He also admitted to an affair, used an anti gay slur. What?
No, God!
He
No,
did not
God,
use an
please,
anti gay
no!
slur.
No!
No.
No!
Giuliani
No!
also admitted to an affair, used an anti gay slur, and claimed that Jews, here's the real crime, have small penises, transcript showed. Oh no. Oh no, that's a bad goyam right there. So Noel Dunphy filed a lawsuit against Rudy Giuliani earlier this year, accusing him of rape and sexual abuse. You think the timing of this is a little sus, Camellia? What's your
I
take on this?
I think it's a little sus because I like the first thing that came to mind when you were telling me about this last night, which I had not heard of before I got here. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, that explains some of the memes I've been seeing. I was like,
Hmm.
what? I don't understand this. But anyway, but I was looking and they were together like 2019 to 2000. It's not been 2021. It's not been that long ago. And so it seems kind of suspect that, she's bringing it out now and also that she was recording him at the time. It's like, why do you record someone if you're, I don't know, why not? I mean, why not just leave or whatever if you're not comfortable, why stay and why record unless you're looking for a payout?
Right. He said the two were in a consensual relationship. Anything more was flat out false. And of course, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. These are allegations until,
Sure.
he gets a jury of his peers here. We're talking about a rape and sexual abuse trial. So this is, these are criminal accusations. In June, the former New York mayor and lawyer for ex President Donald Trump asked the judge overseeing the case to strike portions of the lawsuits and sanction her and her lawyer. He said allegations about romantic affairs, discriminatory remarks, and his supposed sexual proclivities regarding Dunphy were false and meant to portray Mr. Giuliani as a sexual deviant. I have to say, like, when I think of deviant, I think of somebody like really like wild and out there, like, you know what I mean, like gangbang or something like that, not like what Mr. Giuliani has said, which Camellia will read now for the record.
Well, look, okay, you know what he said? He said about Matt Damon. I can read that part. 5'2", eyes of blue.
No, no, that's
Not that part.
no, 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 no. No. So we're talking about like what they're accusing him of that might make him a sexual deviant, because when I read the transcript yesterday, I was just kind of like, well, this just sounds like, Tuesday night at the Peterson house. I honestly, how do you know? Because until you read it out loud what he actually said. Okay, so why don't you just please share with us the transcripts of Rudy Giuliani, if you don't mind.
I really hate you. Let's see. Do I need to do the redacted version?
No.
Mr. Giuliani. I'm not going to call him Mr. Giuliani. I cannot. I can't believe you're making me do this.
It's so good though. Please do it.
Okay. Come here, big.
Big what? Big butts? You said tits? You just said tits. Oh my god. No.
Pete, repeat. Those belong to me, etc. So on and so forth.
Okay, hold on. Calm down. Calm down. You're giggling and laughing so hard that we can't understand you. Please slow down. Please slow down and read the transcript, please, verbatim.
Okay.
And remember, this is for posterity.
Yeah, thank you for that. Like, I was going to be out there. Mr. Giuliani says, "Come here, big tits. Come here, big." Stop it. Your tits belong to me. Give them to me. Indiscernible. I want to. I want to claim my tits. I feel like so hot. Okay, and he repeats that a lot. Okay, so we get the point, and
No, we don't get the
yes,
point as of yet. Hold on now. Let's take a look at. I've got a picture pulled up here of Olivia. We want to make sure that we understand who we're looking at here and what we're talking about. This is Miss Dunphy over here, as on the left, right next to Camellia. You can see pictures of her, and she does look rather nice.
like wasn't as big as I was anticipating, given how much he went on and on about it.
Well, I'm going to tell you that the way that she's kind of like presenting here, to an extent, like
May
I
not
think underplays a bit. They're rather she is very well endowed. Yes. Like it's definitely on the big side there. So anyways, the transcript goes on.
It does go on. It
Yes,
says,
let's continue here.
nobody else can get near these, okay? I don't care if they're flirting or they give you business cards. These are mine. Got it. Now I will not say that word on there, but he said
Which
I'm
word?
very effing possessive.
Oh, okay. Yes, you don't have to say the F word, right?
I've gone easy on you. And then like I can't see some of the rest of it in what I've got here. And she's like, and she says, I don't know.
No, no, no. You're not really doing this right. Hold on. Let me pull
Mm.
up the transcript here. Let me show you how this is done, okay?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm gonna give you the this is how you should do it. You have to read it as like you're Giuliani, right? He goes like this. Come here, big tits. Come here, big tits. Your tits belong to me. Give them to me. Indiscernible. I want to claim my tits. I want to claim my tits. I want to claim my tits. These are my tits. And Miss Dunphy says, "Oh yeah." And then Mr. Giuliani says, these breasts belong to me. Nobody else can get near these, okay? I don't care if you're flirting or if they give you business cards. These are mine. You got it? Because, if they're giving you business cards, they're trying to grab your boobies. She says, yes. He says, understand, I'm very effing possessive. I've gone easy on you. She says, I don't know. He says, I've been easy on you. She says, you're pretty tough on me. He says, I've been easy on you. Give them to me. She says, maybe. So that's how you do it. Thank you. Can I get an applause, please? Thank you.
Good job, Austin. Good
Thank you.
job.
Yes.
This is like really early in the morning for this.
I know. I know. Well, hey, listen, I warned everybody. I told everybody that it was going to be a little bit PG-13 to rated R this morning, but hey, this is the juicy stuff. So,
So I didn't like no, what was the part? I was reading it last night and I've lost it now. But there was a part where they were talking about where they were role playing
hmm
and that was weird.
why is that weird?
Well, I don't know. It was just I'm trying to remember like what they were doing now. It was what they were talking about. Oh, I know what it was. This is why it was weird
Why?
because they were role playing like they were coming into the building or whatever and the doorman he was like I got to take, my little girl upstairs and he was like my daughter, my little girl. I'm like, "Okay, that's freaking weird."
Well, that's Wednesday night at the Peterson house.
Oh God, like
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are you telling me Daddy Dom little girl is off limits?
I think that's pretty effing weird.
Really?
Yes.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me you've never called a guy daddy?
Okay. Well, here's the thing. If he had just said, shut up,
He's not answering the question here.
just
She's
said,
not answering. Let it be known for the record that she is not answering the question. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning.
God, I understand.
I'm Austin. I know it is hot in here. I'm I'm Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to my friend Camellia Peterson on camera. We're talking about the accusations. You have literally never been redder. And the funny thing is like you could see like the top of your. I think I'm actually kind of red too. Yes, I am. You can see the red spots on my collar here from this conversation that we're discussing today, the accusations of rape and sexual harassment made against former mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani. Anyway, so you've never called a guy daddy?
It's one thing to call her my little girl. It's another thing to say my daughter. That's freaking weird.
Uh,
Like, no, I didn't like
okay,
no.
yeah, that is a little weird. All right, so it'd be like, yeah, actual daughter.
Right.
Okay,
And he
so
said that according
probably though, like inbred family fantasies are fairly common though, to be honest. Like it's just because you're not into it, Camellia, because you're a little
let it
Mennonite.
not
You're not a Mennonite. Anyways, if you like the content this morning, make sure you click like and subscribe. It's not usually this weird or rated R, but it is. Hey, it is the news. So the news is the news. We talk about the news that you can use. So Rudy Giuliani is. This is sort of like the sideshow, the circus that's going on in the background of the allegations made against Donald Trump. Let's move on to something a little bit less.
thank you.
But then we got to get back to it with Lizzo. So it's going to be kind of gross this morning. But we were talking last night a little bit about like the conspiracy charges against Donald Trump and who was named. I'm trying to remember. My mind's a little fuzzy.
So, well, his Giuliani is what made me think of it, and there is some assumption or that some of the people who had previously testified or said in depositions or whatever that Trump had admitted to them privately that he knew that he didn't win the election,
Hmm.
that they were not named in the indictment. And so the assumption is kind of is that those people cut a deal.
So,
And Giuliani was one that was not named, and he's like right in the thick of it. So you would think that he would be right there with Trump as far as
what do you think that means, though, for Giuliani
I think it means there's a good possibility he's cut a deal. Now, I think
to
it's
avoid prosecution himself
right,
as part of the conspiracy on January 6th?
right.
Did you hear what the judge was saying about it yesterday on the show?
Yeah, some, I think, yes.
His take on it was fairly interesting. Kind of shocking to me, especially coming from where he comes from. But in terms of like a conspiracy, it's kind of a thought crime, right?
Yes, I do remember him saying that.
That this is all really just a thought crime, that they're trying to convict Donald Trump of something that was going on in his mind, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. But in terms of the co-conspirators, the judge says that he hadn't heard the same rumor that I heard, which is that Clarence Thomas's wife may have been one of the unnamed co-conspirators in the January 6th thing. But the other people, like, we're going to see some of these people possibly being brought out to testify against him. And you just know that the Democrats are going to time this perfectly. It's going to all go
Sure,
up in the run up to the primary and things like that. And it's probably
sure.
weirdly going to get Trump the nomination.
Well, that's why I think that they're doing it, because I think that is the only way to keep people ginned up about it
Hmm.
and to keep his base fired up. And, because like I think, you know, even Scott Fawn, when we were talking about this, because he had, in his panel on the show he did for here in Missouri,
Hmm.
they asked that question. And, a lady who's been really prominent in Missouri politics for a long time says, she supported him, she voted for him, was a delegate for him, all of those kinds of things. But the question for her now is not whether or not he can win the primary, it's whether or not he can win the general.
Right.
And so, I mean, even Scott says, well, like I'm thinking about voting. I don't, I wasn't really going to vote for him, but I'm even thinking about voting him because they're doing all this stuff because of
Right.
what the dangerous precedent it sets.
Isn't that funny though, about how that sort of backfires with people? I wonder if the Democrats know that. Probably the smarter ones do. That, like, this is going to cause a lot of Republican supporters of Donald Trump to want to double down and maybe get more people to vote for him, but knowing that
Sure.
they can beat him in the general election, right?
Right. I mean, it's almost like making him a martyr. It's like
Yes.
it's just anyway. So yeah, that's my personal conspiracy theory. I think that's their whole. There's a method to the madness.
Yeah, and it is sus that these allegations against Rudy Giuliani are coming at this time, right? But like you said, if we say at this time, when should they come? Remember, statute of limitations can run out on these things,
Right.
and as you said, this stuff went on from like 2019 to 2021. So we're talking about some very recent allegations made against
And
Rudy
she did
Giuliani.
file them, I think, in May. So
Right.
it's not like it was just like this month or anything.
So what do you think the key takeaway is from the conspiracy charges? You think Donald Trump wins the nomination and loses the general?
I think if he wins, and a lot of people that I respect their experience in politics have kind of said to me privately on the side that they think there's no way that he's not going to win
Hmm.
that primary. I am holding out hope still yet that a lot of things can change very quickly.
All
But
right.
I definitely think if he wins the primary, he loses the general.
Why do you think DeSantis's campaign has been so lackluster to this point? Because we liked Ron DeSantis. He's been a good governor of Florida. He's not everything that you and I want, right? We've got issues with him and the way that he handled certain things. And even in the very, very beginning of the coronavirus lockdown, he wasn't the absolute best of the COVID lockdown governors. He kind of made that name for himself a little bit later.
Right.
I think even our own governor, Mike Parson, did a better job to a certain extent, right? We don't have
Right.
to
And
beat him.
staying hands off. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Versus who was probably the absolute best at the earliest was who was it?
Christy Noem.
Christy Noem. Yeah, the South Dakota
Right.
governor, Christy Noem. So Ron DeSantis, despite all of his flaws, I think would be a good president, but doesn't look like he's got a good shot at winning the nomination so far. I mean, Vivek Ramaswamy is kind of outdoing him. So is, I mean, who else? There was some other candidate that like pulled ahead of him.
Well, Tim Scott.
Tim
And Tim
Scott.
Scott's
Oh,
actually been doing really well in terms of cash on hand and fundraising and,
hmm.
and those kind of things. And so I don't know, DeSantis's campaign is in the middle of just doing a reset. And so I think we'll see in the next couple of weeks how they come out of this, and that will be telling as far as I think the way the rest of it goes. He's not, and I think this is what people have been somewhat disappointed in, is they want candidates, they want the flash and the pizzazz and the
Mhm.
charisma. And
They want it to be a show.
right, I have seen people complain that, he's not charismatic enough.
Yes.
And like I'm over here like
I
I
know.
can use a little less charisma in
No,
politics.
it's true. And I mean, as somebody who was a follower and supporter of Ron Paul for a number of years, he's like, I think we ought to end the Fed and, return to the gold standard. And I'm like, yeah. But the problem is that we're not normal, right? We're nerds.
Yeah,
And like, it's really hard for people to step outside of their shoes
yeah,
and kind of look at things from a normie perspective. I struggle with that all the time. And because if you want to be successful in politics, you got to get regular people's votes.
yeah.
And regular people, they liked what Donald Trump had, and that's why he won the nomination, is because he was a celebrity.
Well, and I think that's actually why not just Trump may struggle in the general if he were to get the nomination, but I think DeSantis would have an uphill climb too, because when you get to the general, if you don't have a candidate who can appeal to those people in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
those suburban white women,
Yep.
you are going to have a hard time.
Yep.
Because I saw a stat not too long ago that I think was really telling. It said like 20 something percent of people identified as Republican, 27% of people identified as Democrat. They were really close, almost equal, and 44% of people identified as independent.
Oh,
And
wow.
I think that's, if you're ignoring that, it's to your own detriment.
Yep, for sure. We got to take a really quick break. I want to talk to you about my friends over at Lear Capital, who have got a great deal going on right now. For those of you who have been interested in buying gold and silver, precious metals as an investment, now's a good time to get more information from our friends at Lear Capital. They're running a really cool deal where when you buy an ounce of gold from Lear Capital, you get an ounce of silver for free. So if you'd like to get more information about that, you're going to need to call them today. So why don't you grab a pen real quick and write this number down, 1-800-885-2175. Now, I will give it out to you again in just a moment. It's up on the screen as well. So set your mobile device down real quick, or if you're watching us on the big screen TV, you've got no excuse to go and grab a pen and grab more information from our friends over at Lear Capital at 1-800-885-2175. Maybe you're thinking of retirement, you're looking at the stock market this morning and seeing what's been going on with the downgrading of credit from our AAA rating to a AA rating. The bills will come due with the massive amount of dollars that have been circulated into the system over the last few years. And when those bills come due, you don't want to be stuck holding the bag. You want to be stuck holding a bag of gold and silver. So why don't you check them out at learaustin.com if you'd like to just get more information today. You can sign up for a free gold and silver information packet from our friends at Lear Capital by visiting learaustin.com. That's learaustin.com, or call 1-800-885-2175. And I promise they're not going to bug the crap out of you with all kinds of sales calls and do high-pressure sales tactics. They don't operate that way. They'll call you once, give you the information that you need, and then they'll leave you to make your own decisions, and you might get an email every once in a while from them. So support the Wake Up America show and support your own financial independence by visiting learaustin.com, learaustin.com. But if you want that gold and silver deal where you get an ounce of free silver with an ounce of gold purchase, you got to call them today. 1-800-885-2175. All right, time for us to move back over to talk about Lizzo being sued for not only sexual harassment, yikes, we'll talk about that in a second, but fat shaming her dancers. Let's take a listen.
She proceeded to say, dancers get fired for gaining weight. You should basically be grateful to be here.
The trio is also suing Lizzo's production company and her dance captain, Shirlene Quigley, accusing her of forcing her religious beliefs on them. Lizzo has not commented on the suit, the champion of positivity on stage, now accused of enabling a toxic work environment behind the curtain.
You go from preaching about sisterhood to then turning around and saying that it's a privilege that you know us by name.
Efforts by NBC News to
crazy.
Hold on, listen to this.
I'm so new to this industry, and
Your
for this
career's
to be
already
my
over.
first experience is really crazy.
Ariana Davis and Crystal Williams were both on Lizzo's Amazon Prime show.
Watch out for the big girls.
The pair also went on tour with a Grammy Award-winning artist whose real name is Melissa Jefferson. Davis says she was pressured to attend sex shows in Europe even though it was against her religious beliefs.
If, to be honest, if this was a corporate office and she was doing exactly the same thing that she was doing on tour, immediately that would be so many HR violations.
On Tuesday,
Yeah, but it is a little bit different in the entertainment business these days. All right, let's get into it. So she's getting sued for fat shaming and harassment as well as sexual harassment. Camellia, your big picture take on this.
Well, for somebody whose whole persona has been body positivity,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the irony is kind of off the charts.
I love it. I love the irony here. But, former Lizzo employees speaking out after horrific claims and lawsuit involving bananas. This ish is bananas. So she's being sued for harassment and creating a hostile work environment. First of all, I have to say that the entertainment business cannot operate like the corporate world does. Right. Because the kind of zaniness and wildness of creative types and people in a studio environment or backstage or things like that, as I can attest, it operates on a different level. You can't kind of stifle the sexuality of the entertainment business to a certain extent. You just can't. I mean, they tried for a little while doing this thing where whenever there was a sex scene in a movie, they would have people on the set who were there who were like sensitivity coordinators. Have you heard of
I
this?
remember hearing about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's real-
Oh, dude, as if doing a sex scene in a film or TV or on stage isn't awkward enough.
Right.
You've got somebody going, standing there watching you like a hawk and being like, that was an inch too close to the danger zone. We're going to draw a little line here next to her birthmark. And if your hand crosses this birthmark line, then it's a lawsuit, right? You can move your hand all the way up the thigh, but as soon as you reach the birthmark area, that is a problem, right? So the entertainment industry can't operate the way that a corporate work environment is. Like this dancer, she's like, "Oh, this is my first job." It's your last job in the industry, right? So I feel bad for her on some extent because, like, obviously, what was done to her is wrong. But the problem is that this stuff's never gonna like go away. This is what Hollywood is like backstage. But I do enjoy the hypocrisy. I do enjoy the hypocrisy because the left has made Lizzo a cause.
Sure, absolutely.
And they want us all to see Lizzo as beautiful.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, she has like her skill. She plays the flute, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she has incredible skill in doing that. Do they ever talk about that? Almost never. They really almost always just talk about her physical appearance. And I'm sorry, but I thought, we're feminists, right? Is this the age of feminism? We're supposed to be talking about what women can do, not what they look like.
Well, not really. Because like a large part of women's value to society is their looks, right? They're, a large part, at least what society, whether or not you agree with that or not.
Okay, that's fine, but
Is it not fine? I mean, like,
well, that means that they're modifying what people are supposed to find attractive then.
well, but here's the thing. There's a reason why you put on your makeup before you came here on the show this morning.
Yeah.
You want people to think that you are attractive.
Okay, sure. Yes. I don't
You're
that's not
acting as if like this is I'm from planet Mars right now.
I'm just saying that, by how they present someone like Lizzo now and how they ignore her accomplishments and they focus on her looks, not
What's
only
wrong with that?
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it is hypocritical on their part because they've always wanted, like the message has always
Yes.
been to,
Your
recognize women
skills, your
for their
talent.
contributions,
Right.
not just for their
That's always
appearance.
been a lie.
But now, the cope is that it's not like we're going to still focus on the looks, but now we're going to change the definition of what is considered attractive or
Mhm.
not.
Right. Okay. Well, we can move on to the sexual harassment part of this. We'll get back to the weight shaming question here in just a moment. There are allegations of sexual harassment and weight shaming, but none were quite as shocking as the bananas. Did you find the bananas news?
I
Okay.
didn't see that part of it.
Okay. So here we go. So according to the plaintiffs, while visiting an Amsterdam strip club, I'm telling you, folks, if you're tuning into the show right now, it's rated PG-13 to rated R. Okay, so today's Wake Up America show is not like your typical show. We try and keep it PG-13 max, but today it's PG-13 to R. So if you have kids, please understand that. All right, we're not always like this, so raunchy, but the news is raunchy, and so we're going to cover it. All right, here we go. So, according to plaintiffs, while visiting an Amsterdam strip club called Banana Bar, that's your first clue. Lizzo reportedly began inviting cast members to take turns touching the nude performers.
Okay, I saw that.
Catching sex toys launched from the performers' vaginas and eating bananas protruding from the performers' vaginas. So while the after parties were routine and non-mandatory for her staff to attend, those who participated were favored and even felt a better sense of job security. That makes sense. During the Banana Gate outing, Lizzo reportedly peer pressured one plaintiff to touch the breasts of one of the nude women. When Davis declined, the singer led a chant that only grew louder and more strident. As a visibly uncomfortable Davis continued to refuse. Boy, Rudy Giuliani would have loved this part, wouldn't he? Yeah.
Giuliani, they're calling Giuliani a
These are my
deviant.
tits. These are my tits. Plaintiffs were aghast with how little regard Lizzo showed for the bodily autonomy of her employees and those around her, especially in the presence of many people whom she employed. I've been in these kinds of situations before at jobs, not just entertainment jobs, but office jobs. If you don't get in good with like the big wigs and do everything they tell you, even though it's insanely humiliating stuff, you can lose your job. And things like this, I won't say I've seen things like that in a work environment. I've seen things pretty damn close to that in like work like slash networking environments and things that I've been that are like parties, but they're like work parties, but then like suddenly they descend into like S&M orgies and things like that. But that's a story for another day. Um, and like if you do not participate, because you know why, it's kind of like it's sort of this idea like when you get inducted into a gang where it's like you have to kill somebody or you
Right,
have to do something. If you want to buy drugs from a drug dealer, they're going to be like, all right, do a line, right? To make sure you're not a cop.
right.
So this is kind of how they operate. This, apparently Lizzo and her gang operate on a gang mentality. Do this, engage in this behavior, even if you're a conservative Christian, which apparently some of these young ladies are. Of course, they're black women, so they're gonna, some of them are going to be Christians. And now they've got a case. The problem is there any video of them eating bananas from a stripper's vagina?
Let's hope not. Well, I mean,
Are you sure?
for their sake, maybe so, but I'm okay with not seeing that.
Okay, well, I don't know how I feel about seeing that, but I mean, I hope. Let's see. For the sake, for the girls who are making the accusation, honestly, like I
Right.
know that there's some, but you're not supposed to have cell phones in strip clubs. So anyway, it's possible that they didn't have it. So, anyways, these girls, these young dancers and stuff. I mean, they're a little naive as to how the industry works. Nobody should be sexually harassed or be forced to do those kinds of things. And obviously, being fat shamed while you're in a work environment sucks. But the reality is that in the entertainment business you are going to get fat shamed. Like I got fat shamed. I got laughed at one time when I was in my early days of auditioning, and I was probably less fat than I am right now, but I was still overweight. And I went to an audition for Arm& Hammer underarm deodorant, and my agent had not told me that the audition would require me to take my shirt off. And this is before I got into karate, so it must have been like maybe 17 or 18 years ago. And I went to this audition not knowing like what was going to be expected of me. And so everybody at this time had started to, in like Hollywood and Broadway and movies and TV and commercials, like every guy that are in these like commercials, like you have to be like jacked. There's like an interesting like you can go and trace like Hugh Jackman's character as Wolverine in the very first X-Men to today, and it's an unbelievable transformation in terms of what was considered like an ideal male body for like a strong superhero. Like Wolverine is supposed to be jacked, but when you see him in the first movie, he just looks like a normal strong guy with like a normal healthy body. But as you go through the Wolverine movies, he gets more and more ripped and like testosterone laden and
Hmm.
probably, steroid laden in order to achieve that look. Where was I going with this?
And you were fat shamed.
And I was fat shamed at this this audition where I was told to take my shirt off, and you're supposed to be told before you audition for something that you'll be required to remove your clothing in the audition.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't told that, right? So I had a really crappy agent at the time, and I was just like, I okay. And they told me to flex my muscles, and they were laughing at me, and I was really embarrassed, and I was like pale. It was winter and stuff, so I hadn't been working out. It was too much New York pizza, and I'm not saying that it's okay what they did, but I will say that it was a reality check for me, because that is how the entertainment business is, and that is like you're not going to get cast. I mean, you will get cast if you're in Lizzo's show because she specifically hires these big black girls as dancers, and her whole thing is about being a big girl. But she's chastising her dancers. She says, if you gain weight, you're going to get fired, right? So you can be big and have a certain amount of weight, but if you get too big, then they're going to let you go. Well, I mean, I know that that's the case,
Right.
but probably a lot of these young girls who are watching this and who look up to her, they probably believe the propaganda,
Right.
right? Because the propaganda is, and if you see Lizzo, there's in multiple interviews of her, you'll see her saying things like "big is beautiful" and like American Express brings you Lizzo, and it's all about female body positivity. But Camellia, it's a lie.
Yeah.
Female body positivity is a lie. It's not meant to do anything other than to sell you makeup and to sell you clothes. Because the big fat reality is that if you are unless you are Lizzo and are a celebrity and bringing in the bucks, you will be fat shamed. You will be subjected to the harsh, critical eye of 1920 by 1080 full HD camera and now 4K. Like, did you remember when like the big deal was actresses were mad about 4K?
I don't
Actors,
remember hearing that, but I can understand why.
yeah,
See every pore in your
yeah,
skin
yeah,
at that
yeah. Like
point.
right now we're streaming. Like I can't stream in 4K. I don't think anybody can stream in 4K just yet. Maybe it's starting to. But that's a 4K camera that's on you right now. But we can only stream in 1920 by 1080. And typically when you shoot wide like this, they say the camera adds 10 pounds. And the reason why is because when you film in a wide format, typically like there's a little bit of stretching, especially depending on the TV that you're on. But this is the reality of Hollywood, and like the unrealistic body standards exist whether or not Hollywood is telling you that they don't. Like it's a lie, Camellia. It's a
Well,
lie.
and this is the psychology of marketing too,
Hmm.
because when the norm in society has become that people are more obese,
Hmm.
then you kind of have to do that if you want to keep selling products. You need to make people feel comfortable and good about where they are. You need to make, women need to feel pretty,
Hmm.
at the weight that they are at if you want them to buy, the things that they would need to buy,
Hmm.
when they're at that weight.
Yeah, Justin Peterson is here this morning. Good morning, Justin. And
Hey.
he's talking about is comparing this to kind of the same situation with Ellen DeGeneres.
Mm.
Remember how it came out that she was like abusing her employees and treating her staff like crap? Dude, it is like that. Like, if you're a young person and you're watching this show right now, hi, good morning. Click the like button, but also don't think you're going to go into any aspect of the media and that you aren't going to get treated like dog crap unless you are the star,
Right.
right?
Well, and they are the biggest hypocrites because they're the ones that are always out there, talking about how, corporations should treat their employees
Right.
and workers' rights and all of these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely correct. But then when you get in the entertainment business, it's very different and how they treat you. But you should expect, whether it's television news, as somebody who's worked in television news, whether it's broadcast radio, whether it's film or TV, whatever it is, that you should expect that this is the kind of behavior that people engage in this industry. Whether you think it's gross or not is immaterial to the fact that that's never going to change. You're never going to see television, Hollywood actresses, models do anything other than act like the most depraved degenerates that you've ever seen or heard from. And to be honest, like, you wouldn't have it any other way. People don't watch movies and actresses and rock stars because they're like everybody else.
Right.
Right.
They watch them because they're doing the things they can't do.
Right. We live vicariously through these people. So, hearing that Lizzo went to a strip club and took a bite of a banana that was poking out of a stripper's vajayjay is, to me,
Instead of vagina.
Vagina, yeah. It reminds me of that story that I told. I don't know if you were on the set, but maybe it was Stephanie. But maybe I don't know if you were on the show when I talked about that party that I went to in Times Square in New York City with that big producer, and like those girls brought out that suitcase full of drugs and were like, which drug do you do? And they had like heroin and meth and pills and weed and mushrooms and acid and every single kind of thing that you could imagine. It was a Hollywood executive producer, and that is normal. I mean, I say normal it's normal for them. Right, not for us. Like, I'm sure that like Tolly Owens and Jose Palacios and Corey C and Andy Opperman are like, oh my God, like this is wild. It was wild. But like that was, a normal New Year's Eve party in Times Square. It's a completely different lifestyle than what most people think of. So when they read these news headlines, that's why they read these tabloids. It's why they watch these stars, because they want to hear this kind of stuff. So my guess is that Lizzo probably gets off on this, and these young dancers will learn an unfortunate lesson, and they may be getting a lawsuit. And here's the thing, they may get paid off, but they will never work again. They will never get another job in television, in Hollywood, because everybody knows that they'll sue them and that they can't get away. These are people that you can't hire. Honestly, why people with good Christian morals go into Hollywood?
I was going to say, that's probably not the worst thing that could ever happen to him, to be honest.
No, for sure. Not to say, I know that Christians who are like listening to this are like, no, we got to take over Hollywood and like we got to stop the degeneracy and have good quality family entertainment and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, bro, it's, you see what goes on behind the scenes with these Nickelodeon sets and things like that, right? And it's like, I'm not excusing it. I'm not saying it's okay, but that doesn't change the fact that it's never going to stop. It's
tendency toward that in the arts in general. It's not everything, but there certainly is more of it in the arts, and that is as old as time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we've got a lot more show to go. I've got video of young Christians getting arrested for praying outside a pride rally. We'll talk about that with our lovely Camellia Peterson when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Donald Trump and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website, and I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake. Yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes. You like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchie Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchie Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Serve one another. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, beware lest you be consumed by one another.
Hey, what are you doing?
What is the problem?
I'm on vacation. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? What are you doing? I just think that my hand. You didn't give him any warning. You just grabbed the mic. No, this is the same one that we had in here. Yeah, that was in there. It was not out here. What is wrong with you? What are you doing? You didn't give us any warning. Let it go. You guys have been warned.
They said we can they said we can speak out here on the sidewalk freely.
You can speak, but there's no amplified.
Nobody told us that.
What are you doing? Nobody told me that.
How come there's no amplification?
This.
Hey, you guys are acting like thugs, man. You're acting like straight up thugs.
Hey, you're taking away my property.
He has every right to be out here engaging in speech. He has every right to be out here engaging in speech. There's cars driving by with their radios playing, that's amplified sound. People are standing out here with radios, that's amplified sound. The ordinance has to do with a decibel gauge. You don't just get to pick and choose which amplification you like and which you don't.
There it is. These young Christian boys who were arrested. Good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. Glad to have you here. If you're just tuning the Wake Up America show, I'm joined by Camellia Peterson, who's in studio with us here today. Wisconsin police arrest young Christians protesting a drag queen event for kids. On Tuesday, this viral video circulated showing Christian protesters being arrested outside this event called Pride in the Park in Watertown, Wisconsin. The young man in the video is Marcus Schrader, and another man, Nick Prell, was detained but released soon after with a warning. The man who filmed the video said the two young men were part of a group from Mercy Seat Christian Church in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Around 200 people had gathered to protest this drag queen event. The police arrested several young people. 3 were arrested earlier in the day while inside the park praying and talking to attendees, and then released with warnings. It was open to the public, thus the public's right to free speech is carried with them. One was arrested later in the day for preaching on the public sidewalk outside the venue and is being charged with unlawful use of sound amplification and resisting arrests. So the Pride in the Park event, with sessions aimed in children, some people claim was in greater violation of the law. There were several dozen police officers assembled to protect the drag queen event, during which performers dressed in lingerie were seen dancing and gyrating in front of little children who were invited to give them $1 bills. Wisconsin law forbids individuals from causing a minor to view or listen to sexually explicit conduct. The event apparently did make national headlines, but not because of the Christian men who were detained, Camellia, but there was a neo-Nazi group that looked like the Patriot Front who showed up, right? That looked kind of like some kind of a psyop, that maybe the Democratic governor wanted to have something to denounce, perhaps. Who knows? Anyways, so
Maybe, yeah.
your thoughts?
I have some conflicting thoughts about this. First of all, when they talk about the drag queen shows and like, oh, it's just fun and people dressing up for kids and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
to me, it really crosses the line and shines a bright light on that whenever they talk about encouraging children to give dollar bills, because there's only one context
Mm-hmm.
in which you are giving dollar bills or sticking dollar bills into clothing,
And what is that context?
and it is not child appropriate.
Right.
Right. This is what you do with strippers.
Right. So it's inappropriate for someone to take a child to an event where people are performing sexual acts in public.
Sure, absolutely.
So why are you conflicted? What's
Well,
conflicting?
so I think on the other hand, that people who are, especially because of the current climate that we're in, I think that people who are going to protest those things have to have all of their I's dotted and their T's crossed with how they go about doing it.
Mhm.
It's no excuse to say, nobody told us this, we didn't know the law, this, that, or the other. You need to make sure that you are like solid and they have nothing that can stick to you. So you need to know if you need permits. You need to know, like, what, and I will say, if they are, when it talked about them, praying, whatever, that's fine. I have a little bit of an issue, and I don't know for sure, how much they were doing this, but if they were going into the middle of the event and they were talking to people
Mhm.
and they were unwanted in doing that, that's more on the harassing end of things. And even if you don't agree with something, I don't think that's an appropriate way to handle that.
Right. They weren't doing that. And the people who were arrested earlier in the day, according to the article from Not the Bee, they were arrested for praying, which I imagine they weren't amplifying their prayers. They were probably praying silently in a
Right.
circle. And so that deserves a little bit of investigation there. But here's the thing. I mean, we can talk about what we know, but we're allowed to speculate. And my speculation is that they're doing this, they're arresting these kids and protecting these drag kids because they're protecting an agenda, right?
Sure.
You don't just arrest. You would have never seen 50 years ago Christian kids getting arrested on the street protesting something like this. You wouldn't have seen it 10 years ago. My belief is that because of the Democratic governorship, because of the way that that culture and society is turning, that they arrested these Christian kids over a matter of free speech. Now, what is the decibel level? Because that's really the question.
Right.
Amplification, right? Amplification to what? The guy who was chastising the cops was saying, other people are out here playing music at a much higher decibel level than this, right? Are you going to arrest all of them? No, they're not. They're going to go target those protesters. And I believe they did that for political reasons. I mean, in terms of speculation, we only know what we know, but would you agree with at least my analysis from a personal perspective there?
Sure, and I think that we need to how do we define resisting arrest anymore? Because when you
God,
watch
dude, that
the
is
video,
dumb.
like when you watch the video, it's if we call that resisting arrest, holy cow. I mean, like I don't think he was doing anything more other than talking. Like he
Exactly.
wasn't physically fighting them.
Let's watch it again real quick, just so that we can get the context, and then the people who are just tuning in.
Serve one another.
Looking at them.
For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, beware lest you be consumed by one another.
Hey, what are you doing?
What is the problem?
What's wrong with you? What are you doing? I just think that my hand. You didn't give him any warning. You just grabbed the mic. No, this is the same one that we had in here. Yeah, that was in there. It was not out here. What is wrong with you? What are you doing? You didn't give us any warning. Let it go. You guys have been warned.
They said they said we can speak out here on the sidewalk freely.
You can speak, but there's no amplified device.
Nobody told.
Okay, you can speak, but there's no amplified devices. So why didn't they just say you can't amplify it? They're allowed to have their event, right? The drag queens, we don't agree with it, right? Even though it might actually be a violation of the law. So maybe they shouldn't be having that event, at least such as it is, not in public with kids around, engaging in sexual activity in public with kids. But the police officers, why didn't they just walk up to them and say, you can stand here and you can speak, but you cannot amplify your voice into the crowd of people? I mean, that would seem to make much more sense. But they grab the kid's hand, they confiscate his property, and they arrest him.
Right. There was no in between. They went straight from saying you can't do this to arrest. I mean, if they had just unplugged the amplification and they would have given them the opportunity to agree to that stipulation, that would have been the reasonable step to take. And that would have been, I mean, like there was nobody escalating that except for the officers at that point. So it's like they're giving practice de-escalation because they were the ones doing the escalating.
I think Christians are being persecuted in this country. I think honestly that, especially in blue states, that if you are a conservative Christian, it is like, do you remember in the Bible, the last days, the prophecies of Revelations, where you will know that it's the end of times when like Christians are being persecuted? Like if I were an end times Revelation Christian, this is the kind of stuff that I would point to as a sign of the end times.
So, as someone who spends a lot of time in the pro-life movement, this is, I mean, this is something that we've done in there too. And you do protests and you do life chains on the side of the road. And I will be honest, after a while, I started to question the effectiveness. What was the outcome? What was the value in some of those tactics? And sometimes I wonder when you think of, preachers on the street corners or, all of these things, like, is that truly having a desired outcome eventually? Is it creating value? Because if you're just from the point of view of a Christian, if what you are doing is not moving you toward the goal, like what is your purpose? There should be a purpose from their point of view. So, I mean, like, I kind of have mixed feelings from that point of view on things. We did this sort of tangentially related, but when you're talking about freedom of association, and I think that gets tricky when you're in the public square because they're literally in the public square here. We have been working on legislation in Missouri the last couple of years that basically is freedom of association on college campuses. So that if, students in a conservative group, whether it's, TPUSA or Young Americans for Liberty, whatever it is, if they have a group on campus and they are meeting, that they have the right in one of the events that they have on campus to turn people away who come there with the sole purpose of being disruptive, or they are not members of the group or whatever. Because they have been told, previously that they can't do that. But they should have freedom of association. They absolutely should be able to do that. So I think there's a question too of like, how do you handle, freedom of association if, somebody is disrupting what your event or group is? Now, Were they violating the law by what they were doing with children? Probably.
Yeah.
I
But the
mean, I
cops
think
are
that's a good point.
protecting them
Right.
and arresting the Christians who are speaking into a admittedly quite loud
Sure. So the
speaker.
question is, what is the legal recourse for addressing, your law enforcement when they are not enforcing a law like that? And
But
like, what can you do?
I know, and that's the thing is that like there's Michael Malice has a word for this. They call this anarcho tyranny, and it was somebody brought it up to me the other day when I was talking about how or I was telling Stephanie about this. That we were talking about these two thugs who got arrested for carjacking and then taking the car on a joyride. We're not talking about like stealing a car. We're from like that's sitting in a car lot. We're talking about carjacking, right? So an
Mhm.
act of violence against a person and then taking their car and destroying their vehicle. And the San Francisco district attorney declines to press charges against these two individuals, right? Yeah. But Elon Musk has the giant X on top of the old Twitter building, right? Instead of the Twitter logo. The San Francisco DA is pursuing at every angle to try and prosecute him
Are you serious?
for signage laws.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So it's called anarcho tyranny. And an anarcho tyranny essentially means that the government only punishes people who are go against its political agenda. It punishes people who go against its political agenda to the fullest extent of the law. It doesn't persecute or prosecute anyone who it perceives as not a threat or supportive of the government's agenda. It only goes after those who do not support its political agenda. So that's why when you see, and I mean, the last couple of days, I've been seeing dozens of videos in California of like Gucci Coach stores, and these kids are going into these stores and just robbing them blind, and they're running full speed out of the store. And like the top comment is always, "Why are they running? Nobody is going to chase them or stop them from doing this." But if I go into San Francisco and I break some pitiful law that is, ridiculous for whatever reason, they're going to prosecute me to the fullest extent of the law because of who I am and what I represent and my demographics and ethnicity. So that's an anarcho tyranny. And this is kind of that situation in Wisconsin where these kids, these Christian kids, they're ostensibly breaking the law, right? Or violating an ordinance, perhaps. But the drag queen story hour with the kids and they're being sexually explicit in front of minors, they're not enforcing that law. They're protecting that.
Yeah.
That is an anarcho tyranny, at least as I understand it. But I'd love to hear what our audience thinks. Louis Vuitton last night, says Justin Peterson. Yeah, I saw that video. It was wild. You can text the show with your thoughts at 573-319-1586. Justin also said, this is the culture now, though. If you fight back against the robber, the police will come and arrest you. Why do you think that is? Why is that, Camellia?
Well, I think, partly because we have such a litigious society.
Mhm.
Like you can sue over anything and everything, and it doesn't even matter if you end up getting found not guilty. By the time it's all said and done, you're in the poorhouse because you've paid so much to defend yourself.
Mhm.
And it just is, you have to wonder at what point do business owners and reasonable people who are suffering the consequences of this start pushing back, because they do, they are who, that's what makes society run, and they have that power, but they need to wield it. Was a clip going around on Twitter last day or two I saw that talked about, or looks at when you go into a Democrat run city in a store, and like literally everything in this store was behind a glass case locked up, whether it was deodorant or shampoo.
Mhm.
Like couldn't go just shop because the crime rate is so high.
For sure, for sure. All right, well, we're going to move on. I want to talk about this next story Camellia, because it's just kind of, I like to give useful advice for our listeners who are tuning on to the show. I read this story from Psychology Today yesterday called Six Habits That Undermine Happiness and Sabotage Growth. But before I get to that scene, I want to remind you all that John Burke at Shell Shock CBD is one of the big sponsors of the Wake Up America show, and he's got a great line of Delta 8 and THC products that I heartily endorse and recommend. If you haven't checked out his website, what are you waiting for? He's got a great product listing of not just things like Delta 8 and CBD. He's also got some supplements as well as things like ashwagandha and vitamins and teas that are infused that you might want to check out as well. Now, in order for you to help support the show, make sure you use that code that I'm dropping right now over on YouTube and on Rumble. Check out all of the products that he's got over there at Shell Shock CBD by using that code. And I highly recommend the Delta 8 gummies, or the Delta 8 tinctures for those of you who are like me who don't party as hard as you used to but are still looking for good pain relief. The Delta 8 obviously has a psychoactive compound, but it's really hard sometimes to judge just exactly how much of a dosage you're going to get. That's why the tinctures that are available over there, like the Bomb Pop tincture, very tasty. You can actually measure it out to the absolute milliliter for somebody who's just looking for something to help with a little bit of pain relief or maybe to help you get to sleep at night. Check it out at that coupon code that I dropped over there. You will get a 10% discount over at Shell Shock CBD. Use that code AP4Liberty. I just dropped the link over there. You got to use that link to help support the show so that they know and we get credit for all the sales, which I have actually seen that we've been making some sales on the back end of that affiliate link. So thank you if you have been buying from Shell Shock CBD for supporting the Wake Up America show and John Burke's veteran-owned business. You know, when advertisers step in on a small podcast like this, they're taking a big risk that the money that they spend to help us to grow the show will come back to them. So do please spend your money where you believe, where your principles lie, by visiting those links that we dropped over on YouTube and on Rumble as well. And maybe if you're not interested in it right now, bookmark that link so that you can come back to it later. Check out his full line of delicious products of Delta 8 and CBD products as well. So there you go.
You know, I was going to say, I have not, ashwagandha is something I need to look into because I've heard Steffi say that she likes it, and I just like, I don't know what it is.
Ashwagandha. I like the name. Ashwagandha is the 13 health benefits of ashwagandha. Let's see what it is. What is ashwagandha? Ashwagandha is a prized herb of India used for centuries in the practice of Ayurveda. It's a sister science to yoga. And it is, hold on one second. It is revered for the ability to heal the body and mind. In traditional medicine, Withania somnifera, this is ashwagandha, is a tonic for the central nervous system. The name ashwagandha means smells like a horse. Which makes sense considering its unique smell. It's still totally worth a cent. But apparently, the ashwagandha that John sells doesn't. They've like they've denatured it to that extent, right? So they say that.
It's neat.
Yeah. So there's many health benefits of ashwagandha. You'll have to look them up because I don't have time to go through them all. It's supposed to help with anxiety, says Stephanie. Okay, there we go. Good to know. All right, moving on. 6 habits that undermine your happiness and sabotage growth. On the Wake Up America show, I like to turn things to the positive sometimes, give you all some life advice. Usually, Camellia and I like to give people dating advice.
Oh, gosh, I don't like to give people dating advice.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. And sometimes people attack us on Twitter over it, but that's what makes it so much fun. But today, I want to talk about some habits that might be undermining your happiness and sabotaging your growth. Internal conflicts can kind of fuel emotional tension and generate impulsivity and poor life choices. External conflicts to happiness are easier to manage, but it's the internal conflicts. Those are the ones that are harder to spot. We all have those blind spots. Happiness destroying habits include holding grudges, self-neglect, and creative stagnation. Everybody wants to be happy, but many of us, we engage in activities that derail our happiness and point us towards misery. So, why do people willingly engage in happiness destroying activities? Let's go through it. So external obstacles, things that are on the outside of you, those are easy to spot, right? You can see those things like financial hardship, failed relationships, right? A sudden accident or an illness. That's the reason why you lost 2 weeks of work, right? But typically those things jolt you into action, right? So you're going to apply for a new job, you're going to start dating again, or you're going to follow a doctor's advice and hopefully regain your health, right? So usually we see external obstacles as kind of a call to action. It's time for us to wake up and to take action, right? We had a bad accident. We need to step in. We need to start learning how to walk again, right? Those are external obstacles and they motivate us. Internal obstacles, though, those are the real challenge, right? They're a lot harder to spot. And usually there's no sudden change. So there's no one to blame, right? Except for yourself, right? And usually internal obstacles will lead to unresolved conflicts with yourself. And opposing impulses will create emotional tension and anxiety. And a lot of times they will lead us towards self destruction. So we do engage in behaviors that we know are bad for us. We drink too much, we smoke too much, right? We look for instant gratification or relief from emotional tension, and then we engage in self-sabotaging life choices, right? When we don't have mastery over our negative habits, lasting sustainable happiness is always going to remain elusive. And the first one on this list, I'm not ready to come to terms with yet, as as is to be expected, grudges. Walking around wishing ill on others is a terrible way to go through life. Worse, the grudges you nurse weigh you down and can trigger depression, increase anxiety, and zap your creative energy. I might forgive sparingly, Camellia, but I never forget. I work in politics. Of course, I have grudges. What about you? You got any grudges?
I mean, serious ones?
Yes.
No.
Really?
Right. I don't know whether to chalk that up to
Lies.
my memory or what. I tend to forget things, fairly easily. Not to mention, it just is. I don't know, maybe it's the way I was raised too, but like the idea of that there is the possibility of redemption for every single person is just like is at the core of my center. I want to believe that people are good and that is a possibility for
So
everyone.
you don't hold a grudge at all against the
Just Josh Hawley.
what about the head of the New York Young Republican Club?
Oh, I don't know that if that's a grudge. I just think he's a word I keep.
Douche canoe?
Oh,
He's a vagina banana?
vagina.
Eaten by a vagina? All right, I hold grudges, and it has held me back in certain ways, right? And there have been times when I lose sleep a little bit over it. Not lately. There's most of the time I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing and keeping things out of the front of my mind. But a lot of times these grudges do live in the back of my mind. But it's kind of like, what am I supposed to do? Like I ran for office twice, right? And so you have people there are people who like a portion of their life has been committed to destroying me personally.
Sure.
Okay, there and if at any point in time, my star were to rise again in any way, shape, or form, these people will come out of the woodwork and will do everything that they can to try and personally destroy me for the reasons that they just don't like me or whatever. They hold a grudge, okay, for whatever perceived slight is on their behalf or something like that, or they just don't like my politics or me personally or what have you. What am I supposed to do about that? Like, I mean, if somebody else is holding a grudge against me, I mean, I sound like I'm rationalizing this, right? Because this is a problem, an internal problem, but they started it.
Well, I know, but I think you have to look at you have to look at okay, what does it mean to not hold a grudge? Does that mean that you're going to choose to associate with those
Mhm.
people that you have to all of a sudden accept everything they do? No, I mean, like everybody has boundaries, and with people who have shown themselves to be untrustworthy and toxic, you set your boundaries with those people, but you also don't let them live rent free in your head.
Mhm.
That hurts you more than it hurts
No,
them.
it's true. It's true. And there have been times like when like somebody's like doing something like infuriating online or something like that, and it's like, directed at me personally that I am just like I lose sleep. I will lose sleep. I'll be mad because my anger will keep me awake and I will seethe, and it's just not healthy for me. And like the temptation is to like, go drink alcohol or something like that and to kind of like dull over the pain, but it doesn't help, honestly. Especially alcohol, because it actually just exacerbates like the negative feelings that you have and sort of like makes it even worse, for at least for me. I don't know, some people maybe it helps. It doesn't help me at all.
Right.
6 happiness destroying habits we're talking about this morning on the Wake Up America show. If you enjoy the content that you're watching today on the Wake Up America show, I'm glad. Why don't you click that like button and subscribe to the channel so that you can get updates whenever we go live. I'm joined in studio today by the lovely Camellia Peterson. I'm Austin Peterson. She's Camellia Peterson. We're all Petersons here, but we're not effing related. So please stop asking us, okay? The Wake Up America show brought to you by listeners and viewers like you. When you click that like button and you subscribe to the channel, you're helping to support the message of economic freedom and personal liberty, which is what we support here on this show. We stand firm on those principles and we fight to continue to spread them, fighting not only on the national level, but also here in the great state of Missouri, which you can see the beautiful little Missouri logo right over there next to Camellia Peterson. We do broadcast this show from the capital of Missouri in Jefferson City, Mo, the heart of Missouri, the heart of the United States. So if you support those kinds of values, make sure that you do so with your dollars. Drop a super chat today if you like the content, you want to help support us, as well as visit the ap4libertyshop.com store. There's a great new product that we have available right now over there is a delicious Founding Flavors coffee. If you haven't seen the commercial yet, then you will definitely want to check that out over at my Twitter page. Twitter is AP4Liberty, but at ap4libertyshop.com, you can get some delicious Founding Flavors coffee. Camellia is enjoying the delicious Jeffersonian Java today, which I feel kind of bad because my favorite is the Benjamin Franklin Electric Elixir. And I should have made that this morning because I know that Camellia has the Jeffersonian Java, but she needs to try the Franklin Electric Elixir, and that is my favorite.
That's okay. I'll order that one too.
Yeah, get some of that. Get some. It's delicious. And if you buy more than one bag, make sure you use the bundles page over at AP for Liberty Shop because the bundles page is a great way to save. The more bags you buy at once, the more you save, all the way up to 12% if you buy 4 bags or more. Okay, let's move on. Everybody's got their coffee. Happiness destroying habits. This one, my brother Justin always talks about this one. This is one that I'm quoting him where he always said that comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
Compare and despair. Comparing yourself to others and coming up short warps your world outlook. Some pitfalls of comparison include lower self-esteem, a weaker core identity, and growth sabotage. When we were on the cruise as a family together last year, we were playing this little game where you ask questions of your family, and one of the questions is name one person who you are jealous of, or name a person that you're jealous of and why. And I sat there and I thought about it for a while, and I'm looking at my family and I just go, everybody. And Justin immediately responded, because that's how I know he's truthful. He immediately responded, same, because I compare myself to everybody, right? Like I go on these podcasts, I'll go on somebody else's podcast and they'll have like 300 people watching live or 500 people watching live or 1,000 people watching live. And I'm just like, I'm not as cool as you, right? And it's like or I'll go on somebody, there's this like podcaster in St. Louis that I'm probably going to go on soon. And it's like, he's like a multimillionaire. He's got Hummers and all this stuff, and his business is so successful. I mean, this guy he's just so rich and famous. He's got like 1 million people following him on Instagram and stuff. And I'm just like, no. But he's like buddies with John Burke. I'm probably going to go on his show here pretty soon, but it's kind of like jealousy, comparison, right? I see somebody else, you'll see these people who, especially like the Liberty Movement, they'll like come out of nowhere and they'll have instantly 100,000 followers on Twitter. And you're like, what's wrong with me?
Nerd.
Well, yeah, right. Like, why am I not cool? What's wrong with me? But I've never been cool. And so honestly, embracing my uncoolness has been one of the smarter things that I've done to a certain extent, but I feel that. I feel the jealousy. I am fallen. What can I say? For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of Jesus Christ, our Lord, Christ of Nazareth, born in the manger at Bethlehem, and lived to be 33, and at 30 began his ministry, and then spent 3 years doing miracles, healing people, the sick, blind, turning water into wine, walking on water, and then eventually was crucified by the Romans, although some Catholics think it was the Jews, and then they hate Jews. And why are we talking about this? Comparison and despair.
So anyway, yes, so it's important. I think it's good. A little of comparison. I don't know if I would call it comparison, but looking at what other people doing and recognizing their strengths and what you can learn from their strengths, in areas that that you can learn from. I think that's healthy. Looking at them and wishing that you had what they have, and and that you could be more like them. You know, sometimes that's a little harder, and I think that it's also something that's really important to teach your kids as they're growing up, because we do have a kind of like parents will do this. I hate to see this. I hate this. And I think there is something that just is kind of innate in parents that like makes you want to do this, because when you're trying to want your kids to be better or act better, you're like, look at that kid. Look at these kids. Look what they're like. Don't do that. Like
Yes.
that, there is probably nothing worse for a child's self-esteem. And yes, self-esteem is important, but like everything else, balance and just don't overkill. But it's, that's important.
Yep. I have to take a quick little detour and say thank you to Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend for her $20
Wow.
tip.
Awesome.
Friggin' A, that's big. She says, it's my last day of school. I graduate with my master's in clinical rehabilitation this weekend. Celebrate with me, AP. Hell yeah.
Wow, congratulations. That is awesome.
That's nice.
That's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work. Yeah, I guess, hold on. Let's put on a quick little, there we go. Little song and dance. Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend. Oh yeah. It's your last day of school. You're getting your master's, or you've got your master's in clinical rehabilitation. We're celebrating with you. Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend, you are a rock star. We wish you all the best in your future career as a clinical rehabilitator. What is a clinical rehabilitator?
Curious, I don't know if this is like on the physical end of things or the psychological end of things.
We'd love to hear more from you, Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend. And this one goes out to you, big Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend. And of course, we appreciate your financial support of the show. Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. We do wish you the best, Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend. All right. We're talking about 6 happiness-destroying habits here on the show. The next one here, we're moving away from compare and despair. Creative stagnation. Oh, God. If it weren't for ChatGPT, I couldn't do everything that I do. Curiosity will keep you young. Taking classes like Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend, exploiting new activities, taking an art, theater, or dance stimulates your yearning to expand your life. Creative stagnation can breed despair and hopelessness. I really do find that's true, where I will see some new work of art, or I'll go to the theater, or I'll watch like an avant-garde film, or see some like piece of creative content, and it will just be like taking a creative drink of water, and you're just all of a sudden you feel inspired, right? So like I'll watch a documentary and I'll be like, all right, now I'm going to add this in when I make my documentary. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put all this kind of stuff in there. That is a good one. Creative stagnation, right? But you have to be curious,
Right. And I think when people think about like this particular kind of thing, it's not just like art or dance or things like that. It is anything where you are creating and making something. I mean, it could be woodworking for that matter. I watched, so JP, I can't remember his name, the redheaded guy that does all the, can't remember his last name. But anyway, you know who I'm talking
the
about.
comedian?
The comedian.
Yeah,
yes.
he's like jacked.
Yes.
Yes.
So he has a video that someone shared with me 2 or 3 years ago that I love. And he just like, it's not any like funny, crazy stuff, but in there, he's just talking about the importance of taking time to do something creative every day. No matter, like that can look like a lot of different things, but just taking the time to do that. And I'm really bad about not doing that because you get busy and you don't. And it is, when you're intentional about that, it really makes a bigger difference in your life than you would think.
Nelson65 made a really good point about our last bullet point where he says, don't forget there are people who are envious of you.
Yeah.
You are good looking, have an awesome wife, and doing what you love. Oh,
right.
Thank you, Nelson65. It's true. That's usually what I do in order to get over it, right? When I have like jealousies or things like that. Like Steph and I talk about this all the time where we're like, think about how amazing our life is, because we get to work from home, we get to be together. Like we were just talking about like in regards to our dogs. Like our dogs get to be with us all day long. Like a lot of dogs, like the first time they see you is when you come home from work, and like that's like 7 or 8 hours it's been since they've seen somebody sometimes. But that's how I sort of deal with my jealousies and anxieties about my professional career, is that I go, well, wait a minute. think about how good you have it, right? So that is a good way to look at it. And thank you for reminding me about that, Nelson65. Nelson is a cool guy. We've really added like a bunch of new names and faces lately on the Wake Up America
Yep,
show.
it's been cool.
Yeah, Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend, Kermode Bear, Nelson65. And a lot of that is because of our friends over on Rumble, because Rumble has really taken off lately. And I do want to encourage you that, by the way, if you are one of our Rumble viewers this morning, don't forget to click like and subscribe to the channel so that we can have you join us again, because we all are friends here and we're all going to have a lot of fun. Are you excited for the float trip, Camellia?
I am, and we're getting rain, so that should help things out.
Yes, thank God. Because honestly, like I'm so lucky because I like not prayed for rain, but I sort of manifested rain, if you will.
Yes.
And we have been getting a lot of rain. Last night was kind of dangerous.
Coming into Jeff City,
It
and
was crazy.
just the right time. It was quite a light show going on.
Yeah, for sure. So next week we're having a float trip. We're gonna have Quest Fanning's gonna be there. Matt Unruh is gonna be there.
Yep.
You're gonna be there. Who else? Doug Ashby's gonna be there.
Joni Rankin.
Joni Rankin. I can't wait to meet Joni.
Yeah.
I'm excited to meet Joni because she's one of our new friends as well. So, and she's from Missouri. So,
And there may be people like Doug Hill and some others that have mentioned they may join us for dinner one evening.
Oh, nice.
That can't do the float trip, but they can come. Some people can come do that. They can come have dinner with us.
Yeah.
Friday or Saturday night.
Cool. Well, we're going to have a lot of fun. And of course, we've Mr. Liberty 1776 is one of our new friends, another libertarian. We love it. Glad to see you, Mr. Liberty. You are Mr. Liberty. I'm just AP.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah. All right. So let's talk about things. If you're just tuning in the Wake Up America show, we're talking about 6 habits that undermine your happiness and sabotage your growth. Number 4 on this list here is self-neglect. Shakespeare wrote self-love. Hold on.
Not that kind of self-love.
Is not so vile a sin as self-neglecting. Poor diet and exercise. I've been working out, but my diet sucked. Lack of mindfulness, media binging, that one can get me too. Creative dullness and intellectual decline are some outcomes of self-neglect. When you neglect yourself, all other aspects of your life decline. Do you practice self-love, Camellia?
I mean, yeah, as is defined
She said
here.
yes. Continue.
I mean that, I pay attention to how I eat.
Yes.
And exercise and my physical health and my mental and spiritual health too. I mean, if I am not focusing on, my own mental health as far as being mindful of what I do, then as a parent, I cannot do that. I cannot help my children and teach them those things if I am not doing them myself.
For sure. I think exercise is not a problem. I like my exercise. I do my exercise a lot, so I'm very strong, but I have a thick layer. I'm like a ribeye steak with a thick layer of marbling on top of it, right? I'm the fattest I've ever been. I might be the strongest I've ever been, but I'm also the fattest I've ever been. I do have to change my diet. I got a stomach bug while I was down in Tennessee and stuff like that, so that might be the catalyst for me to just kind of start eating more leafy greens and stuff, but I need to do that anyway. Another big problem for me is media binging. So I do sometimes do the doom scroll, where you're just going through, and it's hard because I have to find stories for the show every
I was
day.
gonna say it's kind of inherent in what you do, so that would be challenging.
I have to say thanks to John Combus to just subscribe to the Wake Up America show. Thank you, John.
What?
Well, he's just subscribed to the YouTube channel. Yeah, John's here.
Still, hey, John.
He's watching. John, you missed it earlier when we were talking. We were asking if Camellia had ever called anybody daddy. We were talking about what was it? It was Rudy Giuliani, where he was. You got to back it up, John, and do it. Where Camelia's reading the transcript of
Probably
Giuliani,
hear about it sooner or
where he
later.
said these big tits are mine. It's funny stuff. Very funny stuff.
It's not funny stuff.
It is very funny. You got it, but it's back at the beginning of the show, so you'll have to rewind and watch it later. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, John. So the next list on the things that are undermining your happiness and sabotage your growth. Number 5, social isolation. Yeah, I mean, I've had periods of my life where I've gone through this, but a lot of people do struggle with this. There's even like a group of people in Japan, I'm not sure what they call them, but they live like their entire lives in social isolation. They show like I watched this documentary. I can't remember what it was called, but of the Japanese men who don't go outdoors. They are called hikikomori.
Mm.
Severe social withdrawal, right? They total withdrawal of society, seeking extreme degrees of social isolation and confinement. Hikikomori refers to the phenomenon in general and the recluses themselves. The concept is primarily recognized only in Japan, but other similar concepts exist in other languages and cultures. They're described as loners or modern day hermits. Estimates suggest 500,000 Japanese youths have become social recluses, as well as more than 500,000 middle aged individuals. Why?
So are they saying that they're not necessarily choosing to do this, but they are doing this because they are so uncomfortable, in social situations? I mean, like sometimes, people do these sort of things for religious reasons or, as some sort of self-discipline or something,
I
but
would think that that would not be the kind of thing. If you were doing something like that, like a meditative retreat
right.
or something like that, I would think that you would probably not struggle, right? But I would say that probably that these people are not would prefer not to have these kinds of lives, right? But
Oh.
they probably are just they feel mortified when they have to deal with what seems to us like to be average interactions. Because I mean, you're pretty extroverted. Camellia, I would say you are. I mean, from what I know about you, like you're a life of a party. You're outgoing. You come on the
I
show.
don't know about
Like,
the life of the party,
I
but
mean, you were reading Giuliani talking about big tits earlier on the show.
under
You wouldn't
duress.
do something. Yeah, but you wouldn't do something like that if you
Sure.
were an introvert. You would be too afraid to come in here and get in. I mean, there's lights shining in your face. There's a camera pointing at you. This is an extroverted activity. Okay, so we've established this. It's hard to understand to some extent how people who are socially isolated feel because we are extroverts. However, I do recognize that it is difficult. Like I went through a shy period of my life. We all
Me too.
do, right?
Yeah.
With like kind of middle school, high school, whatever, maybe
Mhm.
early college. And I remember, and I was telling Stephanie just this yesterday because I actually found an old trove of videotapes from the early 2000s of videos that I took of like my family and college and shows backstage that I was in, and it shows me at a time in my life when I was starting to come out of my shell, and I was a little camera shy to some extent, but I remember specifically that I used the camera as a way to hide.
Mm.
So I liked going to parties. I wanted to be social. I wanted to make friends, but I would feel awkward about how to make conversation with people,
Right.
right? How do you do that naturally? That's a skill.
It is. Yeah. I don't, I have not always had that skill either. At least I haven't felt like it, my entire life, but especially, in my high school and college days. Yeah, I would say I was definitely way more introverted then. So yeah, I agree. And I think sometimes it's hard, you think your kids go to, a school with lots of other kids, whatever, and they're just going to come out, they're going to be socialized.
Yes.
And like magic, that just happens when you're around other people, but it doesn't really.
Mm-hmm. Um, so when I hid behind the camera, I would record other people. It was a way for me to interact with them that didn't require me to necessarily provide feedback.
Mhm.
And when people are on camera, they typically act out, right? So they're going to act a certain way. And the people who are in my life, being in, theater and stage and all that stuff, they're always going to be goofy and they're going to have something funny to say. So it was a way for me to avoid having to come up with things to say and to make conversation with so that people didn't know that I felt awkward. But I can imagine for somebody, I could recommend using a video camera, right? That's not a bad thing to do. Like be the guy who's the video camera guy, which is kind of what I was considered to a certain extent. But I did realize later that it was a way for me to avoid having to like be normal and
Yeah.
just to have normal conversations. And of course, people, especially at that age, use alcohol as a way to kind of like, to loosen up social interactions and things. And it's hard for people, even as adults, like fully grown adults, to do it
Oh, for
without
sure.
alcohol.
Well, and the thing is, I'll never forget last year sometime, Felicity and I were sitting there and like out of the blue, she asked me, she was like, how do you make friends?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's an interesting combo.
And I was like, and I thought about that. I was like, Well, to be completely honest with you, adults probably have as many problems with that as kids do.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it is, thinking about it, it is really important. And there are ways that you can teach, like how you just have a small, because like small talk conversation doesn't come naturally to a lot of people.
Right.
And, but I think that when you learn, the art of asking questions and showing genuine interest and, looking for things in people, that it makes that easier. And that's an important skill for kids to learn, that will help them a lot as they become adults.
For sure. If you're just tuning in the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad to have you here. Make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel that you're watching us on today so you can get updates whenever we go live. The Wake Up America show is a 5-day-a-week live stream podcast talk show hosted by me, your libertarian Republican host. And today I'm joined in studio by our friend Camellia Peterson, who is joining us under duress here today.
No, I'm not joining you under duress. I'm very happy to be here. It's only talking about certain things under
the
duress.
Rudy Giuliani stuff. If you really want to see her be uncomfortable and turn redder than hell, go back and watch the tape from the beginning. It'll be good stuff. So we're talking right now about habits that are self-sabotaging you right now. The last thing on here, and you know what, I have struggled with this at certain times. Sometimes I still do, is addiction. Nothing can derail happiness faster than addiction. It destroys families and relationships, snuffs out creativity, and robs life of lasting joy. Whatever the substance, it's undoubtedly going to end badly. Some people have addictive personalities.
Yes.
I typically do not have addictive personalities, but there have been times when I have been addicted to things and I have kicked those habits. But I think probably most people do not have have addictive personalities aren't able to do it, right? That's kind of like what it means to be addicted. But God, I know so many people who have destroyed their life with drugs and alcohol.
And I can't help but think that hopefully someday that, the science of medicine, that they will find, kind of those biological triggers that, they are organically in some people more than others. And some people are definitely more prone to addiction, and that can look like a lot of different things. And so it's harder for some people. There seems to be always something, but it's like anything else, it takes practice and a lot of work.
Yep.
To do that. But I have a lot of sympathy, and I can't say empathy because I don't think that's not something that's innate in me. So I don't struggle with that, but I have a lot of sympathy for people who do, because I can't imagine how difficult that is.
No, absolutely. I totally do, because once you've had somebody in your life struggle with drugs or alcohol, I'm trying to think, I don't know if I've known anybody who's died from drugs or alcohol, but pretty close. I remember being in college, and this kid who was in our dorm got alcohol poisoning, and had to have an ambulance come and take him away, and his parents pulled him out of school, and we never heard or saw from him again. But I've seen people, like people who are close to me, have car accidents. They go and I've seen people who their personality totally changes away from who they are. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
Completely different personalities, like split personalities and things like that. Because alcohol and drugs do different things to different people.
Absolutely.
And some people just can't handle it, right? Like you'll have just like one or two things. And like it doesn't necessarily have to be a substance. Like I know people who have been addicted to video games, right? I know people who have been addicted to pornography, right?
Sure.
And it's like anything that sort of like gives you food. Food is probably, sugar is probably the most addicting substance there is. And you know what? I have to admit, I'm probably addicted to caffeine. And there are probably some health benefits that might come if I were to kick caffeine, maybe, and this might be like a cope for me. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
I mean, I do get my ass up at 4:30 every goddamn morning, but I mean, for the love of God, I do try and, I have a couple of cups in the morning from my thermos. This is me rationalizing. And I think it's just fine, but they say that you should wait like an hour to an hour and a half, 90 minutes before you have your first drink of caffeine in the morning, because it has to do with adenosine. So when your when you drink caffeine, it blocks adenosine, which is what makes you feel sleepy in the morning. So it's a false sense of alertness, right? And so the stimulant of the caffeine is, I can't remember exactly why they said, wait, but they said that you want to wait for adenosine to wear off naturally and then take your first hit of caffeine. So I don't know the science behind it. I'm not a Galdern scientist. I'm a stupid podcaster. So what else do we have to say? All right. So sabotaging your happiness, getting over it. I feel like we've beaten this topic to death. What do you think?
I think we're good to go.
Okay, we've got one more topic left to go before we leave you. We're going to be right back because I have to take a little break to chill my voice out and go use the restroom real quick. Sound of Freedom star Jim Caviezel called Back to the Future star Michael J. Fox Judas after actor made his struggle with Parkinson's disease public. Well, that sure sounds like Jim Caviezel, the guy who played Jesus, is attacking Michael J. Fox for telling the public that he had Parkinson's. That's what the headline makes it sound like, but we'll get behind the story when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mom, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me Pops build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We're glad to have you here today. Appreciate you tuning in. Sorry about the little black space there. Sometimes I get a little distracted. Watching the stock market this morning, I'm executing a trade on Tesla, so I'm waiting for it to hit a certain stock price. What's up, CJ? How you doing? How's the show been so far, would you say?
You're doing good.
Good.
It's been fun, mostly.
Yeah, it's been rather highly sexualized here on the show today, so sorry about that. But
every once in a while, people will ask me if I'm going to run for office, and after today's show, it's like
I think there's
a definite no.
Yeah, I don't think there's a chance that that's going to happen after today. All right, so I saw this headline yesterday, and I'm thinking to myself when I read it, I'm like, this is such fake news. It has to be. It's from fandomwire.com, and it was kind of making the grounds yesterday. It says Sound of Freedom star Jim Caviezel called Back to the Future star Michael J. Fox Judas, which means betrayer, after actor made his struggle with Parkinson's disease public. So you're like, oh, horrible.
That's terrible. Why would he do that? Like, what?
Jim Caviezel, so horrible. These Christian men, shame. So of course I have to go and I have to dig behind the news and see what the headline is, right? So while Michael J. Fox was filming this show, Spin City, it was like back in 1996, his actor buddies were kind of like noticing that he was having trouble, walking and talking and doing the things that he normally does. So he decided to come forward with his Parkinson's diagnosis. After that, he decided to get involved with a campaign to end Parkinson's disease. And so he came out in favor of supporting a politician for office, which was Claire McCaskill. Yikes. Wow. Right. So he does this in 1996. He does this ad for Claire McCaskill where he's talking about, we need to support Claire McCaskill because she supports research into stem cell research into ending Parkinson's disease. So Jim Caviezel called him out and sang Labar Nash Bein Ashak, which is the Aramaic statement signifying the era when Judas betrayed Jesus Christ. So it's kind of a callback to Jim Caviezel playing Jesus in the movie The Passion of the Christ, right? So it's like, you have betrayed me, right? But he says, I care. Here's what Caviezel says. He says, I really care about people in the public. I believe the public needs to be informed, and I'd be through the moon if they ever came up with a cure for any of those diseases, especially Parkinson's. But why would he be attacking him over coming out with Parkinson's? Well, it's because at the time, especially, the stem cells would come from the aborted fetuses.
Right.
Right.
There was a lot of hoopla about that.
So what do we know about stem cell research that's being conducted today, CJ?
Well, I haven't heard it talked about, very much in a long time. And so, now I'm really curious. But, from what I understand, that's, the fact that as far as the source and having to get it from, aborted fetus tissue, that they have a lot of other options now to as far as where they can get stem cells to work with from. I think, I want to say that there are even ways that they could get, stem cells from your own body and you can like save them or, I don't know, use them for future medical purposes or something. There are lots of things they can do now.
So stem cells can be derived from various sources. This is according to ChatGPT, so please double check my work here. The three primary sources of stem cells are embryonic stem cells. These are derived from embryos, which occurs about 5 days after fertilization. So that's a big no-no, right, for the Catholics. Embryonic stem cells are pluripotent, meaning they have the ability to develop into any cell type in the human body. There's adult stem cells, also known as somatic or tissue-specific stem cells. These are found in various tissues and organs throughout the body, like bone marrow, brain, skin, liver, and muscle. Adult stem cells are multipotent or sometimes unipotent, which means they can differentiate into specific cell types of the tissue organ in which they reside. And then there's induced pluripotent stem cells. This might be our big breakthrough here. These stem cells are generated in the lab by reprogramming adult cells using genetic manipulation or other techniques to induce pluripotency. iPSCs, induced pluripotent stem cells, share similar characteristics with embryonic stem cells and can differentiate into various cell types. So, obviously, we don't want to have to pull stem cells from aborted fetuses, right? Because we want to protect the lives of the unborn. But with induced pluripotent stem cells, we can take stem cells out of adults and recode them genetically. I mean, I think that's a breakthrough.
And yeah, and there are, I was thinking, I just double checked this, but there are umbilical cord. They can get stem cells from umbilical cord blood as well. And those can, differentiate into other types of cells as well. So I think, as we've advanced medically, there are a lot of other options. But I remember the controversy at the time because that was pretty much the only option. So that was huge pro-life issue.
It was a big pro-life issue, but thankfully science continues to march on and we found a way to get around it. It's kind of like, the vaccine debate controversy, remember? Where it was like there was like some aborted fetus that was used to create vaccines initially.
Right.
But they don't do it anymore.
Correct.
But the first cell line of this vaccine came from that. And like, let's not get started on vaccines anyway. It's the last thing we want to get into. Camellia, do you think, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners or plug before we let you go?
Nothing to plug. You know where to find me on socials. What you see is what you get.
Yes, for sure. Well, if you're enjoying the show this morning, make sure that you click like and subscribe. John Combus says, phone down, Camellia. You're not driving on a highway. Austin is speaking and Daddy is watching.
Shut up, John.
Rawr. Let's get some that. This is Camelia's internal monologue right now.
How dare you?
Oh, and maybe a little Mary Poppins.
I don't know what the hell that is. I don't think I want to know. What are you doing with that broomstick? What is it that goes, a spoonful of sugar makes the what go down? The medicine go down, medicine go down. All right, don't forget to check out apforlibertyshop.com. Get yourself some delicious Founding Flavors coffee from the shop. If you haven't tried my coffee yet, you are out of your mind. It's absolutely delicious. It's got 5 stars recommended from third-party reviewers who have said to themselves, you know what, Austin, I bought your coffee because I wanted to support you, but now I'm addicted. It's delicious. Well, guess what? We're going to feed into your addictive personality at apforlibertyshop.com with our Founding Flavors coffee. Check out Electric Elixir, Benjamin Franklin's. That's my favorite, signed, sealed, and delivered. And we'll see you tomorrow on Family Friday, the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Dance, monkey.
Your wife is saying things about. It's going to get me in trouble.
Oh, no.
Donald Trump and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Diddy's website, and I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy Bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.